There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will learn the fusion technique. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale. I hope you enjoy. Broken both physically and mentally. His dreams crushed, his ambition had been someone else's. He had been played for a fool, just like he played others. His eyes open, yet all he saw was darkness. Hearing the sound of gentle footsteps growing ever so nearer, the sound of clanking armor. And this sensation, this aura, he knew it all too well. Is that you, Hashirama? The words weakly escaped his lips. Yes, Hashirama knelt down, staying by this failure's side. That is what he was, a failure. He failed to create his vision of peace. Madara Uchiha laid here a broken man. For the first time since he was a child, had he ever experienced this sensation of failure. I guess neither you, nor I achieved what we wanted. Madara for once, could have a friendly conversation with the one man he respected more than anyone. It's never that easy. Our job is to do all that we can, while we're alive. And then, bequeath the rest for future generations to accomplish. Hashirama preached his ideals to him. Even when dying, Hashirama wouldn't stop bothering him with those ideals. Then again, what good did Madara's own ideals lead to? Perhaps Madara was the one in the wrong. So naive, as usual. You were always the optimist. But perhaps that is the correct path. My dream was squashed. But your dream still lives on. We were both too hasty. We didn't need to fulfill our dreams ourselves. It was more important to cultivate those who would come after us, to who we could entrust our dreams. Which means I would have failed anyway. Since I always hated someone standing behind me, Madara couldn't imagine having anyone at his side. The only one he ever remotely liked having by his side was Izuna. But now all that remains of his little brother are these eyes of his. When we were kids, you once said we're shinobi and we don't know when we'll die. And that for neither side to die, we'd both have to reveal what's inside us and pour each other drinks to toast like brothers. But we're both about to die. Right now, we can drink together, as war buddies. Hashirama, always the optimist. His good mood was always contagious. Madara cracked a small smile, even for just a second. He could feel his heart ceasing its beating, his life fading. War buddies, huh, well, I suppose, that's okay, bye, and just like that, Madara had died. Surrounded by nothing but darkness in the cold embrace of death. Perhaps, if I get reincarnated, I will try things differently. Hashirama, maybe, find even the tiniest form of love and peace and hold on to it. It felt like he was underwater, yet he wasn't drowning. Of course, he wasn't drowning, he was dead after all. Then, he heard a heartbeat. A steady growing heartbeat. Did it come from him? He felt his body growing warmer, as blood pumped through his veins. Madara's eyes shot wide open, he could see everything clearly. Madara looked around, beginning to wonder if he was in hell. But no, he was in some sort of egg-shaped container filled with liquid. Surrounded by other similar containers. Before him, was what appeared to be some sort of laboratory. Where am I? Madara stretched out his arms, and broke the container holding him. The liquid rained down around him, his body naked and soaked. What is this? Madara looked with curiosity, seeing some sort of black marks growing around his right arm. With his Sharingan, Madara could see a speck of dark chakra of some kind. No, it felt different than chakra. Those would be demonic marks. Glad to see you are awake, my little new demon. A boy dressed in black, short black hair and eyes devoid of any form of emotion. But what was this power emitting from him? It felt like poison, it felt like death was oozing out from this boy. Madara without any hesitation went in for the attack, grabbing a hold of a scalpel on the table, and with a swift movement he slit the boy's throat open. He didn't even attempt to dodge, how disappointing. My, you are quite the violent one, aren't you? Madara looked in shock, seeing the cut on the boy's neck healing like nothing happened. You are going to have to do better than that. Madara glared upon this mysterious boy, his eyes forming into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. And suddenly a large blue spectral sword, impaled through the boy's body. Better. Madara crossed his arms, his Susanoo slicing the boy's body in half. Looking around, Madara found some clothing. A baggy shirt, and black pants. And not to mention his red samurai armor. Sasuke burnt this with his Amaterasu. How come this boy had a set identical to my own? Madara questioned, as the boy had prepared an identical outfit to his standard battle gear. Because I made it for you, I hoped it would make you happy. Madara's eyes widened in surprise once more. The boy was still alive. Madara turned around and unlike anything he had ever seen. The boy's split body still laid on the floor, yet he was still alive like nothing happened. What is even more shocking, the boy's body started reattaching itself. His blood being sucked right back into his body, even his clothing recovered. Now then, I would appreciate you giving the next shot a better effort. Madara raised his brow. Did this boy just challenge Madara to kill him? Who are you? Oh, my apologize. The boy gave a light-hearted chuckle, truly unbefitting for his emotionless gaze. My name is Zirf, and I am known as the Black Wizard. Black Wizard? Madara questioned, never having heard of someone like that before. You don't know me, but that is to be expected. Seeing as we are no longer in your world, Zirf revealed, leaving Madara speechless. In case you haven't figured it out, I am the one who revived you, and brought you to this world. This world? Madara looked around, seeing a rolled-up map displayed on the boy's work desk. Madara opened the map, and indeed it wasn't like any map he had ever seen. There were no element of nations. But there were nations such as Ishgar. It isn't forged, this is reality, my friend. You died in your old world, and I took your soul and body here. All for the purpose of killing me. Zirf revealed, and now Madara was really confused. This boy wanted to die. And you can't do it yourself or hire someone. You have to resurrect dead people from different worlds. Ah yes, well you see. I am a cursed man, Madara. I have attempted everything to take my own life. Starvation, thirst, decapitation, I even tried to kill myself with high-powered explosives. All attempts failed. So are you immortal or something? Madara looked skeptic about all this. Certainly, the boy might be immortal, having survived Madara's 2 attempts to kill him so far. Yes, I am immortal, cursed by the god of death Anksaram for performing forbidden magic. I have lived for centuries, I have seen eras come and go. I seek to end my curse, and I was hoping perhaps you could. Then the very next moment, Zirf caught fire with black flames. Madara attempting to use the Amaterasu to burn Zirf into nothingness. Pointless, I am afraid. Zirf's body just automatically regenerated from any damage given to him by the Amaterasu. Then I don't see how I can kill you. To answer Madara, Zirf merely pointed to the marks on Madara's arm. To revive you, I had to use demonic DNA. That is what those marks are, demonic marks. You are no longer human. You are my creation, an ethereous demon, and considering your background, I think I shall dub you the Demon of War. Yes, that has a nice ring to it. I'm a demon. Madara didn't seem bothered. To the ghost of the Uchiha it really didn't matter whether he was human or not. He was alive, and that was all that mattered. In a world where no one knew of him or his background. A second chance at life, a second chance at his goal. Yes, one of many ethereous demons I have created. I modeled you after someone I already brought back from your world. An Uchiha like yourself, Zirf revealed looking at an empty container. There are others from my old world. Madara questioned. Only 4 others, all of them former members of that organization you helped create. The Akatsuki. To this revelation, Madara seemed curious and looked around. Although no sign of these former Akatsuki members. Was the other Uchiha he spoke of Obito? In this world, time moves faster than in yours. They may have been dead for a mere few months in your world. But here they have been around for quite a bit longer. That Uchiha I brought back was the first, although back then I was inexperienced to resurrecting people. I took the body of Itachi Uchiha, although not his soul. And when I gave him demonic DNA, he grew a new persona. The Demon of Extinction. By far my mightiest creation, with just as much power as I gave you. But, the problem was he refused to kill me. He came to view me as a father. Although, at least I earned experience from it, and was able to create more ethereous demons. And revive more and turn them into demons. I see, quite interesting. Madara was patiently waiting for Zirf to finish, so that he could kill him and go on about his ways. The boy no doubt programmed Madara's mind to urge him to kill him. Which would explain Madara's sudden desire to kill Zirf. A few years after that, I revived a man named Kisame. He was the first to be resurrected with both his body and soul. And a while after that, I also found the souls of Sasori and later Kakuzu. Although I had to build new bodies for them. But I miraculously also came across the soul of Itachi Uchiha. Kisame, suggested for me to take that soul, and put it into the body of E. With Itachi in his original body, and E's power, he would kill me without hesitation. Finally, my strongest demon could actually work up the nerve to kill me. Zirf then sighed, although, it was not meant to be. What happened? Madara crossed his arms. A friend of mine, a celestial wizard named Anna Heartfilia, caught wind of my Aetherius project. She confronted me about it, about my younger brother and these other creations. In an attempt to put her mind at ease, I sealed away all of my demons except for E inside of their books. Their books. Madara fidgeted at that. Zirf could seal him away if he wanted to. Yes, such as this. Zirf summoned forth a dusty old book, with the letter EMU spread across the cover. And also, 2 more books, one marked END and another marked E. These books are your very essence, if any of you disobey me. Well, Zirf squeezed the EMU book, unleashing a black aura from his hand, adding pressure on the book. And Madara suddenly froze, feeling like something had grabbed a hold of his beating heart. I assume I don't need to explain the rest. If you destroy that book, it will kill me. Madara frowned upon having gotten such a weakness. Once he killed Zirf, he would make sure to steal that book. Anyway, back to the story. Once Anna laid her eyes on E, she was utterly terrified. She could feel his power, so, with a different plan we had devised for my brother and a few of his friends. Anna snatched E away from me, while Itachi's soul was waking up. And tossed him, along with my brother and his friends, through another creation of mine and Anna. The Eclipse Gate, a gateway that can travel through space and time. And she sent Itachi along with my brother into the future. Madara was further intrigued. Zirf was a genius without a doubt. He had not only discovered a way to travel through time, but also how to resurrect the dead. Zirf continued to explain about this world's power. Instead of chakra there was ethernano, particles that converted into magic power filling the air. It wasn't that hard for Madara to figure out how it worked. Well, that confirms at least Obito's not here. Itachi Uchiha, huh? Yes, I believe Zetsu mentioned him. He and Obito slaughtered the Uchiha clan. Zetsu, that bastard. Madara clenched his fists at thinking of that traitor. Anyway, with my greatest creations E and END unavailable, I would like for you to kill me, Madara. Zirf presented himself, awaiting the blow. Something's doesn't add up. Madara glared at Zirf. What? How is making me into a demon supposed to kill you, an immortal? In response to the question, Zirf unbuttoned his shirt. The demon DNA doesn't just boost up your powers to great lengths. During my earlier days experiencing immortality, I made a discovery. Zirf pushed off his robes, revealing a nasty scar on his chest. Only a demon or a god can kill an immortal. And why is that? Madara questions. Well, demons and gods aren't normal mortals like us, their powers exceed beyond our knowledge. This scar is from a demon I bested in the past. Zirf revealed, stroking his hand over the scar with a look of nostalgia. Nearly 300 years ago, a demon elite group, called the Sacred 13, on orders from the Demon King were sent to invade the human world. I caught wind of this, and confronted them upon their arrival. Since I was a human, they underestimated me, and their leader faced me alone. Unbeknownst to him, I had prepared a trap for them. A special spell from the gods, designed to seal and trap away demons. I activated the spell, and sucked them into their prison. But their leader managed to leave this scar on me, before he vanished. And I also managed to take samples of their demonic DNA. That is what I have used to create these bodies for you, and those other 4. As well as my own brother, and with this demonic power, you shall also be able to kill me. Although, I suspect one also needs to be stronger than me to do so. Seeing as the rest failed, while E and END never got their chance. I see, yes, I understand that now. As for the second thing, okay, then Madara figured he would be able to kill Zirf no problem using his new demonic powers. Yes, Zirf asked, you said earlier, you could seal me away in that book, or destroy it should I disobey you. What would stop me from killing you, and then go and do whatever I want? Madara questioned, and Zirf didn't even flinch. He remained completely calm, and in control. Well, you die of course. Zirf bluntly replied, and Madara's eyes widened in shock. You are a demon of the books of Zirf now. Should I die, you will die as well. Through this book, your life is connected to mine. This is to prevent any of my creations annihilating the world after my passing. What, you mean you revived me? just to kill you and die all over again. Madara balled his hands into fists. There was no way he was going to kill Zerf now. But if he didn't, Zerf would just probably destroy the book. Either way Madara would die. Unless, he stole the book back from Zerf and fled. Although the idea of running away made Madara sick to his stomach. If he wanted to live, he had no choice. Madara took a leap, aiming for his book. Hey, I have a few more twerks to work out with you, so I will give you this chance to rest. With a flick of his fingers, Madara was left unable to move. Madara grunted as his very being was sucked into the book marked EMU. Everything was back to being nothing but mere darkness. Although to Madara, it only lasted a few moments. His eyes shot wide open and standing before him was Zerf. Welcome back, Zerf casually greeted. You bastard, if you do that ever again, I will. Madara froze seeing the book in Zerf's hand. Madara had never felt this helpless before in his life, and it infuriated him to no end. Did you enjoy your nap? Zerf asked. Nap? I was hardly even gone for a second. Madara crossed his arms and stared down at Zerf. You have been asleep for a few decades, Madara. Roughly 90 years or so. Zerf revealed. 90 years? You said you only had a few twerks to work out. Madara accused. Yes, well, something quite unexpected happened, someone quite special. I met a girl, Mavis. Zerf revealed, although gave a heavy sigh at the thought of this Mavis. Although, she like the rest fell to my curse. After that, I gave up, and simply forgot you for a few decades. I only remembered just recently. What's this? Your aura is different from before. Madara couldn't explain it, but Zerf's personality felt warped completely. It was like he was a different person. Is it? I had no idea. Anyway, what were we talking about? Zerf questioned, and his aura shifted once more. You mentioned a girl, Mavis. Madara reminded, and Zerf looked confused. Did I? I can't recall, but Mavis, yes, I remember Mavis. Zerf's personality then took another shift. Hey, that foolish girl, thought I could love her. Zerf's personality felt cold, dark. No, wait, I did love her, I loved her too much. Zerf seemed to be in pain, and rubbed his temple as his personality shifted back. Multiple personalities. Is it possible he is insane after having been alive for so long? Is it because of the god of death's curse? One seems neutral, completely devoid of any emotions or feeling of empathy towards anyone. The other, which I assume is his original personality, is a peace life-loving young man. Then we have the one where he just wants to die, and finally, a cold and evil one. I can see why that Anna didn't trust him with Madara analyzed, although seeing as Zerf was distracted. Madara used this opportunity and snatched his book away from Zerf's grasp. Feeling a personality shift coming, Madara hid the book from Zerf's view. I wonder. Oh, hey, are you ready to kill me now? Zerf looked up and practically pleaded, while his face twisted in agony. I was correct, his memory is altered as well as his persona. Madara shook his head in response to Zerf. Not right away, I wish to investigate this world for a bit. Madara revealed. With any luck, Zerf's personality would shift again before he would start looking for Madara. If you wouldn't mind waiting a few days. I suppose I could, but I don't know how long I can deal with this world rejecting me. Zerf didn't seem to be in agony anymore, although his personality might shift again soon. Good, well, I will be on my way. Before Zerf's personality could change again, Madara took his leave. With his demon book in hand, Madara was ready for whatever challenges this world had to offer. During his travels, he came across Hades of Grimoire Heart, and easily defeated the old wizard in combat, leaving a mental scar in Hades. Madara didn't find the old man worthy of killing, leaving that Hades in fear of the name Madara. Then a few months later, Madara encountered the black dragon Acnologia. Madara felt intrigued to tame the dragon like he did with Kyuubi. Although there really was no need, nothing seemed to be able to threaten Madara. He had no need for a guard dog. He was going to kill the dragon, but Acnologia just vanished up in smoke before he could. Madara later found out Acnologia had merely reverted to his human form to escape. A few months in this world, Zerf had never summoned Madara back. Obviously having forgotten due to all those personality shifts. Madara was free, as long as he stayed away from the Black Wizard. Although, it was rather dull for Madara. Besides the Black Dragon, Madara had no real form of exercise. He had already traveled through most of the world, and now Madara was traveling through the northern parts of Ishgar. Madara was walking through a stormy winter-like land. Madara stood face to face with a massive beast that had been foolish enough to stand in his way. Ha! A mere pet wants to dance with me. Such nonsense. Madara smirked mockingly at the beast as it swung its claw down at him. But then the beast suddenly froze into a chunk of ice. Madara widened his eyes, as a figure leapt in interfering. Are you okay? The cloaked figure, clearly female judging by the feminine voice, and by her voluptuous figure underneath. He could not see her face though. I could have killed that beast myself, there was no need for you to step in. Madara narrowed his gaze, the women held some power. Greater than the usual mage he usually came across. Oh, a tough guy huh? What's wrong Mr. Tough Guy, can't handle being rescued by a woman? She was giggling, teasing him. Hey, rescued, implies that I needed your help, which I did not. The woman giggled more, finding him amusing. I'm sure. She pulled down her hood, revealing her beautiful face and short-chinned dark purple hair and black deep eyes. I'm by the way, and you? Madara remained carefree and stoic. Madara, I am Madara Uchiha. Normally one would shiver with fear at hearing that name. But remained unfazed. Of course, she didn't react, this was a new world after all. No one knew the horrors of Madara Uchiha in this world. Yet getting no reaction was a bit off-putting to Madara. Am I supposed to know who you are? Looks at him strangely, she must have noticed his reaction to her lack of reaction. Are you famous? 'Cause your name doesn't ring a bell. I am well known, although not in this land. I am, traveling. To avoid further suspicion this was the best way for Madara to defuse the situation. Speaking of, I should be on my way. There isn't another town for miles, and nighttime is coming soon. Judging by the clouds there will be a massive blizzard storm coming. You should go to town, rent a room for the night, suggested as she finished the beast by shattering the ice sculpture along with the monster inside. Can't, no money, Madara replied and kept on walking, a blizzard didn't scare him. Really, Mr. Tough Guy decides to travel without money. Sounds kinda dumb. Comment irked Madara, he could just kill her and move on. Although suddenly an image of his lifetime rival, and respect adversary, Hashirama popped up into his mind. If he was planning to test Hashirama's ways killing won't be a good idea. She had no idea how lucky she was. If not for his respect of Hashirama, Madara would have killed her. I'm not about to let a man freeze to death. Well, I'm not about to have your death on my conscience, I can give you a place to stay. You don't even know me. I could kill you in your sleep. Madara expressed his confusion. Please, if you wanted to kill me, you would have done it by now. Besides, I can take care of myself. In response Madara flashed his aura to prove a point. I am far more powerful than you. Didn't react much to Madara's power. Her coat blowing in the wind and her eyes widened a bit. So, what does that have to do with it? Raised her brow, and Madara looked just as confused. My point is I can kill you, I'm a stranger, why would you trust me being close to you? So, I'm supposed to turn my back on whoever needs help, just because they are stronger than me. Really started to remind Madara of Hashirama. Such naivety and foolish attitude. I don't need help, you know, the fact that you are warning me alone, makes me believe you won't kill me even more. Shrugged her shoulders. I mean, if you were going to kill me, you wouldn't have warned me. I could have done this to try and convince you I'm not bad, and then I could do things to you much worse than killing you. I just don't understand why you would make such a risk. Why was Madara arguing with her? He should just leave and be on his way. Yet something about her, whether it was how she reminded him of Hashirama, or her lack of fear at sensing his power, he felt drawn to her. Risk. Okay look, if you go out in that blizzard, you will either freeze to death or if you are lucky just suffer major frostbite. Then did something unexpected, she grabbed onto his arm. You will stay at my place for a few days, gather some money for your travels, and be on your way, is that okay for you, Mr. Tough Guy? Flashed him a smile, and Madara just stared perplexed at her. This woman, Madara's hard gaze, softened up a tiny bit. I suppose I have nothing better to do. Fine, but I don't need your help. Haha, yeah sure. Laughed it up like it was nothing. I'm serious, so, don't think this leaves me indebted to you. Madara pestered. Indebted? Are you that insecure about your masculinity that you can't stand a woman taking down a monster for you? Looked at Madara with a deadpan expression. What? Don't be ridiculous. I am Madara Uchiha. Madara scoffed at question. And I keep telling you I don't know what you mean by that. Seriously, why would your name mean anything to me? Madara in the heat of the moment seemed to have forgotten he wasn't well known in this world, yet. Madara twitched his eyes in annoyance. This woman. But hey listen, I don't doubt you could have taken that monster down yourself. I mean, I can feel you are strong, stronger than me for that matter. I just don't understand why you are hassling me for doing something nice. Nice. The word seemed completely foreign to Madara's vocabulary. Halted in her tracks and looks to Madara, like he was some kind of weirdo. Geez dude, when was the last time anyone was nice to you? My enemies putting up a fight giving me a sense of thrill for battle before I slay them, was kind of nice. Madara bluntly replied to who now had a drop of cold sweat running down her head, as she looks to Madara with a, seriously, look on her face. Guided Madara to a small cabin at the side of a frozen lake. Not much, but it is rather cozy. Come on. Walked towards the entrance, and Madara seemed hesitant at first. Why was he following her? Why was she this kind to him? It didn't make sense to the legendary Uchiha. Yet he walked into the cabin. The moment Madara enters the cabin, he is overcome with a cold sensation. His breath was even visible in here. Are you sure you live here? Madara looks around and sees the furniture around in the cabin, and a fireplace that looks like it hadn't been used in years. Yeah, of course I do. What made you ask? Oh, I don't know, maybe because it is so cold in here it's like this cabin has been abandoned for years. Madara asked in a slight sarcastic tone of voice. Huh, well I'm an ice wizard, the cold doesn't really bother me that much. And I don't really get much company here so, investigated her kitchen for food supplies for the upcoming blizzard storm. I got to head off to the market in town. Just stay here, and make yourself comfortable. Right, thank you. Madara was many things, but he still had proper manners. Madara's eyes instantly went to the fireplace. He tossed in some firewood and quickly lit it up with a small fire jutsu. A little under an hour later, still hadn't returned. And by the looks of it, the blizzard snowstorm had started. The woman isn't back yet. Madara stared out the window, seeing nothing but the white snowstorm coming down. Was he worried? No, of course not. Madara grunted a bit, and went back to the fireplace. When he suddenly heard the doorknob turning, and in came with her cloak shielding grocery bags. Woo, sorry I'm late, some kids ran into a volcano. Had to help them. Then noticed the lit fireplace. Dang, really that cold huh? The blizzard would have been more pleasant. Snorts in laughter at Madara's comment. Sorry for being an ice woman. Yeah, well, Madara stands up and turns around, only to be left standing like a deer caught in the headlights. Started stripping, and removed her black bra even leaving her boobs fully exposed. Woo, I don't like heat. What are you doing, you vulgar woman? Madara's little comment earned him a dangerous glare from That's rude, me, you are the one stripping. Madara shots back at yes, old habit. Seems carefree at standing topless before Madara. Old habit, really? Madara looks doubtful at For an ice wizard to get used to the cold is a part of training. One would need to adapt to the cold. And the best way for that. Okay, I get it. Madara turns back to the fireplace to add more fire, rolling his eyes while he ignores the fact that is topless. Although then he realized his Sharingan was still active. He realized once he noticed the image of boobs were freshly burnt into his mind. Arg, I memorized the image, Madara facepalmed. What? Raises her brow at Madara's strange act, almost laughing in fact. My eyes, they are able to capture images and store them, in my mind. Kind of like a camera. It is to help me memorize enemy movements in battle. So, basically the image of my boobs is forever stored inside your noggin. Doesn't seem bothered, as she leans in on Madara and playfully taps her finger on Madara's head. Don't do that, Madara warns, slightly annoyed by that act. How cute you're shy. Giggles in a teasingly manner. To this Madara in slight outrage stands up and turns around again. I'm anything but shy woman. Madara's Sharingan is flaring, yet instead of being intimidated placed her hands to her hips. Should I strike a sexy pose this time? Madara stares in bewilderment at showing no sign of fear for him. Madara then deactivated his Sharingan. I see, so when your eyes are red those are your camera eyes. You are a vulgar woman. Madara shook his head and sat back down in a chair. Geez, lighten up. Punches Madara's shoulder. The human body is nothing to be ashamed of. She's not normal. Madara took it back, she was nothing like Hashirama. Was different compared to anyone Madara has ever met. Chill out, I will make us some grub and then we can get some sleep. And before Madara knew it, was left standing in only her panties. Quite the habit, Madara whispered under his breath and laid back. After a quiet evening, Madara quickly retired to bed, resting with his left eye open so to speak. Just in case anyone attempted something in his sleep. The very next morning, the moment the sun came up, Madara was awake. He peeked outside of the window, seeing the snow melting away from a tree. The storm had lasted all night, and luckily, they weren't snowed in. Time to get moving. Madara grabbed what he had, his cloak and a bag, and headed for the door. Just where do you think you're going? Halted him with her voice. Madara peeking from the corner of his eye, seeing brewing coffee for them both. I agreed to stay the night. I'm leaving, Madara insisted. Aha, did you rob me perhaps? 'Cause if I remember right, you don't have any money for your travels. Halted him from leaving again. I did not rob you. I will manage and do not require your help. What are you so afraid of? The moment asked that question, Madara frowned. Afraid? Don't be ridiculous. I am Madara Uchiha, I fear nothing. I have no weaknesses. He didn't fear death, and ever since he lost everything, he has feared nothing. Therefore no weakness. Aha, sure buddy, everyone has something they fear. And, everyone has their weaknesses. Looked skeptic at Madara's words. Well, I don't. Madara walked up to face, looking at her with a challenging gaze. I think you do. Challenged back, amazing Madara a little that she didn't back down. Think what you like. Madara did not have time for this. Why are you traveling, by the way? Any purpose behind it? Pushed the question. Why do you care? Madara looked confused at why was so persistent. Well, what can I say? I like helping people who look troubled, and you are by far the most troubled looking person I have ever met. She wasn't wrong. Decades of war, loss and murder had put a burden on Madara's mind. So, why are you traveling? I want to just see the world. What it has to offer. Then I make plans. Then, why don't you stay here for a bit? See what this town has to offer. You can't really see the world if you walk by everything. Madara stood in deep thought. He found himself pulled to stay with for a few days like she had offered. Why he had no idea, something about her just spoke to him. Very well, Madara dropped his bag to the floor. Good, now come on, let's go to town. Walked by him, patting Madara on his shoulder. And clean yourself up and get changed, your armor smells. Madara halted with a look of shock, hesitantly taking a quick sniff of himself and underneath his armpit. I suppose you are right, I don't really have a spare set of clothing though. To which tossed him a set of clothes from her closet. I have been told I dress boyishly sometimes. They might be a little small, but we can buy you more clothes in town. After his shower, and having changed into the clothing provided, Madara walked out looking mortified. I look ridiculous. Madara twitched his eyes at seeing himself in the mirror. He wore tight black jeans that really brought out the shape of his rear, and a gray V-neck shirt and a black hoodie. All which looked too small on him. Meh, you look fine. Besides, you don't have to worry, with hair and a butt like that people will just think you are a woman. Madara merely ignored comment, not wanting to deal with this stupidity. Now come on, and we shall get some clothing more your size. You big baby, giggled, finding Madara's annoyed face hilarious. After a quick visit to the nearest clothing store, Madara picked out the outfit most familiar looking to him. A high-collar black shirt with long baggy sleeves, and black pants similar to his usual ones. This will do fine. While Madara was walking around exploring this little town, sat by a little stand at the market talking to her friend. So, the long-haired guy, is that your new boyfriend? Er's friend teasingly smirked at her, and reacted by spitting out her drink in shock at the question. Boyfriend, coughed. Well yeah, I mean, I just assumed a strong hot guy like that was your type. Nah, he's too grumpy, a sourpuss, arrogant, a macho tough guy. Peeks over to Madara, seeing him standing by a crying little girl. At first thought the girl was crying because Madara scared her. But then once Madara asked her, "What is wrong, child?" Madara didn't sound comforting, which made the girl mute. Too afraid to speak up to Madara's dominant tone. The girl hesitantly pointed up to the tree, where out from the leaves peeked out a cat. Madara looked to the feline, and gave a powerful kick to the tree, shaking it so that the frightened cat fell into his waiting arms. The frightened cat had latched its claws into Madara, yet Madara did not flinch and handed the cat to the girl. "Thank you, mister." The girl beamed happily, holding onto her cat and rushed up to her parents. Looked a bit surprised at Madara's act of kindness. Softened her gaze upon the man and cracked a smile. "Hey, but he can be sweet." "Oh." Blushes at her smug-looking friend teasing her. Took Madara with her to the major's office, offering Madara a job with her to defend the town from the local monsters. However, when the major asks what kind of magic Madara uses, Madara revealed he doesn't use magic, but ninjutsu. To which the major hesitantly gives Madara the job, unsure if he should give the job to someone who doesn't use magic. Then came with an offer, to teach Madara maker magic. But Madara, being Madara, scoffs, saying, "Like there is anything of value you can teach me." The major pales, seeing annoyed look, as she glared at Madara, who just stood there with his arms crossed. Madara stares at when she suddenly slugs him across the face. Madara was left stunned, that she summoned the guts to do it. He knew the punch was coming, he just didn't think she was foolish enough to do it. "Just 'cause I said you are stronger than me, don't mean I'm afraid to hit you." In response to this, Madara let out a chuckle, to which looks a bit confused. "I'm surprised, I didn't know you had it in you." Madara in that moment, gained a slight respect for "Very well, let's what you can teach me." Madara accepted the offer. Lead Madara out to the outskirts of the village to teach him maker magic. Demonstrates by creating a giant ice geyser. Madara looks unimpressed, scoffing with his arms crossed. "What, is that all there is to it?" Madara holds out his right hand, and created an ice geyser twice the size of what created. Expecting to hear clap in praise him, he is left surprised when he only gets a smack in the back of his head. No, maker magic needs to be done with 2 hands. One hand makes the creation imperfect. Preposterous. I can manage fine with just 1 hand. It is all I need. Madara gloats. To which with a straight face says, "Oh, so you can do anything using 1 hand, EY. Of course, I'm Madara." Madara scoffs, and then brings out something from her bag. Then tosses a magazine before him, looking at him with a stoic deadpan expression. "What is this?" Madara picks up the magazine. "It's a porn mag, try jerking off to it while reading it, Mr. Hotshot." Madara is left in silence. "What does this have to do with it? You said you can do anything with 1 hand. Prove it, I would love to see it." Looks smugly as Madara stares in shock that those words came out of a woman's mouth. "You vulgar woman." To this comment glares at Madara, with veins of anger bulging on her forehead. "Oi, want to get slugged again?" Balls her hand into a fist, giving a threatening glare at Madara. Madara, not bothering to put up with foolishness, does what she says and uses maker magic with 2 hands. Although, then their training is distracted by the sound of children crying. "Oh no," cries out, seeing a bunch of children getting terrorized by a Vulcan. "Ice make. Spear." Suddenly behind her, launched a massive spear of ice. Looked behind her, seeing Madara sending an ice spear stretching all the way out to the Vulcan. The monster ape, looking confused when suddenly the ice spear pierces through the Vulcan's chest, and pushes it away from the children who run home crying. He saved those kids, thought in awe, not only for Madara's kindness but also for his quick mastery of ice maker magic. Well, who knew that the big scary man had a soft side? Teased. "I didn't save them for their sakes. I've just witnessed enough children die." Madara's reply, left intrigued by that statement. For the first time since his arrival, starts wondering what Madara's life was like before this. "What happened to you, before all this?" asked, and Madara clearly understood she was referring to what he said earlier. "Back home in my country, during my childhood, children were sent to fight in war against rival clans. I lost a lot of friends, all my siblings. Many of them were still children. The adults meant as long as we could hold a weapon, we could fight." Expression softened upon hearing parts of Madara's past. "Oh, I see, that would explain why you are, well you." Then suddenly hugged him. Madara was left confused at this unfamiliar act of warmth. "I just want you to know, it is okay to open up to others. I'm here for you." Madara didn't know how to respond to affection. "Hey, how about you show me this ninjutsu of yours? I want to see it." Changed the topic, urging Madara to show her his abilities. Very well. Madara flashed a few hand seals. Fire style. Majestic destroyer flame. Madara spat out a massive blazing wave of fire, the fire scattering into a gigantic wall of fire. Stared in awe, never having seen this much amount of fire from any fire mage she had come across. The fire melted the snow away, and burnt away the grass underneath, leaving a charcoal spot in the ground. Wow, fire huh? Was left speechless. Not what you expected, Madara questioned. Hey, you know, your fire and my ice make a great match. After all, opposite attracts. In the upcoming days, Madara finds himself awestruck of This woman can go head to head with him, not in a fight but a conversation. Something no one besides Hashirama and Izuna could have done. And regardless of his superior power, she doesn't back down and still hits him, and yells at him whenever she's upset with him. For some reason, Madara found this quite the attractive quality in A few days later, Madara and returned to their training grounds. The two of them were currently having a sparring match, despite Madara claiming it was utterly pointless. Would have none of it, and began attacking him. Ice Make. Rose Garden. Unleashed her mightiest ice spell, sending a vast wave of gigantic roses with their thorny vines. Madara stared at the ice rose garden growing and surrounding him. It reminded him a little of Hashirama's deep forest emergence jutsu. Madara cracked a smirk, having the perfect counter to this. Wood style. Deep forest emergence. Tree roots emerged from the snowy ground, growing into gigantic trees. Trees that clashed with ice spell and pushed straight through, shredding away ice rose garden. Madara dispersed the growing forest, to not harm Now they were surrounded by the wood, making it look like they were in a stadium of sorts. Had enough, Madara crossed his arms, seeing was clearly out of breath. And not yet, claimed, her magic power nearly depleted as they had been going at it for 3 hours. Was clearly outmatched here. Madara was in a league of his own. Madara hadn't even sweated since the fight started. You can't even make me sweat, what hopes do you have of defeating me? Madara hadn't even moved from where he currently was standing since the start of their match. But refused to surrender. She threw one attack at him right after the other. Her persistence was admirable, but utterly pointless when faced with the power of a demonic god. Oh, just you wait, buddy, I swear on my honor, I will find a way to make you sweat and feel hot and heavy. Held her hands up like boxer and circled around Madara, throwing air punches with a playful smirk on her face. That is impossible for the likes of you, I'm afraid. For some reason took Madara's words as an insult, and thus she threw a punch at him. Yet Madara caught it with ease, his grip on her fist firm, making her unable to escape. Why, you son of a... pushes herself forward up against Madara at full force, this sudden surprising act adding her weight against Madara's. Pushed Madara off balance a bit. This was enough to send Madara and rolling down the snowy hill behind them. When they had finished rolling, Madara lets out a grunt as lands on top of him. She growls in anger as she looks into his emotionless gaze, their eyes locked. Although then suddenly, is overcome with emotions and gasps a bit. Then out of nowhere, she pushes her lips against his. Feeling fireworks around them as they kissed, and Madara looking for the first time in a very long time, genuinely shocked. Madara hesitantly raises his arms, bringing them around her waist, pulling in and returning the kiss. They were embracing in a fiery passion, not even feeling the cold snow beneath them anymore. Then without saying a word breaks the kiss, and starts by stripping off her jacket and shirt, leaving her in her black bra. And then she warmly pushes her body up against his, and continue with their passionate kiss. Her soft bouncy chest pushing up against his armor, that she instantly removed by cutting the strap holding the armor together with an ice blade. Madara didn't protest, and like wild animals they continued without any care in the world. They continued with their moment of passion back in the cabin. Instantly jumping him, latching her legs around Madara's waist, while he held her by her firm ass. Madara then carried her into the bedroom, where she instantly pushed him down roughly. One thing is for sure, made good on her promise. In the aftermath, they both laid naked in bed, her head gently resting up against Madara's chest. Wow, guess all the talk you had about being able to do anything was true after all. Smirked while breathing heavily. And you managed to prove me wrong. Madara wiped away some sweat from his forehead, while a little out of breath as well. Hey, you know, your body feels kinda cold. Stroked her finger from Madara's chest and down. Well, sorry for being cold-blooded. Madara said sarcastically, thinking was going to make a joke about him being a macho tough cold-blooded warrior. I don't mind, I like the cold. Smirks, as she grabs a hold of something of Madara's underneath the covers. And if you want, I can heat you up. Purred and sat back on top of Madara again. After their one night of passion, what was supposed to last a few days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. And Madara was still living with Madara found himself not wanting to travel around the world anymore. Everything he needed was right here. On their usual trip into town, had stopped by the market to visit her friend. You and Madara have been together for how long now? Her friend gasped in shock at the news. For 5 months, give or take. Casually said like it was no big deal, while she took a bite of an apple. 5 months, and I am only hearing of this now. Shrugged her shoulders. What's the big deal? I just found a man I liked. Plus, we've been kinda busy. Hunting monsters outside the town border and all. Her friend gave a deep long sigh, feeling worried for carefree state of mind. But I gotta say, I didn't actually think it would happen between you two. Yeah, well it did. Despite his grouchy personality, turns out he is great in the sack. Purred a bit, and they both shared a good laugh. I mean, I get you, the guy is a looker. If I had one complaint it would be that long-ass hair. I know right, I asked him to cut it once, but he went on about some macho bullshit. Saying he refuses to cut his hair until he loses to someone in battle. Both the young women start to giggle, unaware that Madara is walking up behind them holding grocery bags. I don't see how a warrior having pride is funny. Friend falls silent meeting Madara's intimidating gaze, while just snorts and punches him in chest with a playful grin on her face. It's fine, I still find you totally cute that way, continued to tease, despite Madara's stern gaze leaving her friend in awe. Fine, do you wish me to tell her about your cute side? Madara then returns with his own playful smirk, causing to blush a bit. Cute side, tell me. Friend practically jumped with excitement. Whenever and I have sex, she tends to, let out a high-pitched cute scream as she instantly slammed her hands over Madara's mouth. I get it, alright, I'm sorry. Looked panicked, which just intrigued her friend even more. It's fine, you are cute that way. Madara teased by throwing her own words back at her. Please spare me. Nay, Madara-sama, I'm sorry. Went all cuddly up against Madara just to make him shut up. Yeah, Madara wasn't going to spare her. Speaking off, she tends to compete with me in bed on who gets to be on top. And whenever she loses, she gets this blushing submissive look on her face. Baka. Blushed with teary eyes. Yes, just like that actually. Madara pointed out, while friend looked like she was wondering what was this adorable creature that had replaced her ice-cold cool friend. And that returned with a smack, as she slugged Madara right across his face. This is my favorite side of her by the way. Madara always liked it when put up a fight, and showed her strong side. Despite the great difference in their power, wasn't afraid to stand up to him. Looks embarrassed hearing her friend giggle at her reactions to Madara's teasing. Later that night, Madara and had gotten into bed. Madara reading over his Aetherius demon book, and looking strangely at the book. That book of yours, looks rather old. What is it about? Had been wondering about this for a few days, seeing Madara having studied through the book every night. It's an old book about demons. Nothing that special really. Madara brushed it off, and seemed to accept it as an answer. Okay, well, leaned in giving him a small peck on the cheek. Good night. Madara peeked over, despite his stoic expression his eyes stared passionately at Madara couldn't believe it himself. After all those decades of war, all the loss he had experienced, all the pain and suffering. After all that, Madara was still able to feel happy. His love for gave him happiness. But also filled him with a sense of regret, over keeping his truth a secret from about who he used to be, and what he is now. The question going through Madara's head was, should he tell the truth? Madara woke up in bed, alone. He rubbed his tired-looking eyes and searched the room for any sign of Madara was answered by the sound of violent vomiting coming from the bathroom. Madara walked over to the bathroom, seeing on her knees vomiting into the toilet. For the past few days had experienced morning sickness. It's gotten worse, blurred, looked pale, and then she went back to vomiting. Madara gently stroked Er's back in a circle-like fashion. Okay, let's get you to the doctor and figure out what's wrong. Madara supported up his sick beloved. As Madara and walked out the door of their cabin, without them noticing a shining light coming from their bedroom window. On Madara's nightstand was his demon book, the book flashing in a brilliant light, before vanishing into thin air. Madara helped get to the doctor's office before he headed out on a job. Sat patiently waiting for the doctor's analyses. So, Doc, what is it? A stomach virus. Something I ate maybe. Nothing of that sorts. In fact, I believe congratulations are in order. The doctor smiled happily at her, and seemed to be connecting the dots to what he was implying. You are in fact pregnant. Er's heart skipped a beat at the news, time slowly freezing for her in that very moment. I'm what? Took slow deep breaths, her eyes getting watery. A smile spread across her face, tears of joy running down her face. Was with child, together with the man she loved. After scheduling her next appointment, headed on home to get some rest. Lost in her thoughts and imagination of what the future would bring. Madara would be back tonight, she would have to find a way to break the news to him. Despite Madara's attitude, she imagined he would be pleased with the news. Even though Madara could be arrogant, and a sourpuss, she could tell he loved her dearly. Arrived at her cabin, and sat back in her chair. An amused look on her face, imagining what happiness her and Madara's child would bring. Couldn't help but giggle as she gently rubbed her own belly, while having fun imagining a sourpuss like Madara becoming a father. Having finished his job early, with it being too easy for his amazing power. Madara even had time to stop by and gather some new firewood. As he was walking back to his new home, where his beloved was waiting for him. For the first time since he was a child, Madara smiled genuinely happy. It had been so long since he was this happy and had a place he could call home. Although then all of a sudden, Madara halted. A strange feeling overcoming him, his arms and legs feeling weak. Madara as a result dropped the firewood in his arms. What's happening to me? Madara looked down, seeing his body starting to get see-through. He was vanishing, he recognized this feeling. Zirf was summoning him back. No, he must have summoned that darn book back. Madara's mind was racing, the cabin just over the horizon. Madara quickly ran as fast as his legs could carry, reaching his hand out as his legs vanished completely. Madara called out her name, just before he vanished into nothing. Looks out from her cabin window, having faintly heard someone shouting her name. Looked around in confusion, as she saw no one out there. Must have been my imagination. Shrugged her shoulders and went back to thinking about her and Madara's future. She sat in her chair, imagining it, gently rubbing her belly and humming happily, feeling her child's magic power inside her. It was already this strong, couldn't believe it. Papa will be home soon. He is a bit grumpy, and a sourpuss, but I know he will love you no matter what. Hums happily, imagining her life with Madara and this child. For some reason, could feel the child would be a girl. And thus, her imagination started running wild. Imagined Madara arguing with the crying baby while he changed her diaper. Almost like they had a competition over who could scream the loudest. This isn't fun for me either, child. Now stop your wailing, Madara argued with the crying baby, both too stubborn to give up. While stood in the background with a nervous smile as she was making dinner. The image changed to a few years later, and Madara walking together with their child through town. Both holding onto her tiny hands and hoisting her up and swinging her gently while their daughter giggles happily. Then the image changed to the family in a toy store. Madara arguing with their stubborn daughter holding onto a doll, nagging at her daddy to buy her the new toy. While was apologizing to the store clerk for the scene they were causing. And Daddy Madara eventually caving to their daughter's wish, with a little encouragement from Then followed up by scolding the stubborn father and daughter duo. The scene changed again, to a grumpy mumbling Madara dressed as Santa Claus for their daughter on Christmas. Their daughter giggling while sitting on Santa Madara's lap, and pulling his fake beard. Then the scene changed to Daddy Madara helping their little girl build a princess castle in the backyard. And their daughter dragging Madara into playhouse, while giggles as she takes pictures of them. And especially pictures of Madara wearing a sun hat while sipping fake tea from a princess teacup. Then imagines what it will be like once their daughter reaches puberty, and Madara scaring away any boy that got too close to his little girl. Which results in scolding Madara for being too overprotective. Then their teenager of a daughter says she hates her daddy, which leaves Madara in depression. Just mumbling grumpily in the corner, sulking. Then starts thinking that perhaps they will have more children after that. A bigger house, where they can grow old together. Yes, this will be a good life, thinks to herself, not realizing how wrong she could be. Once again for Madara, everything was near darkness. His rage boiled inside his mind. Zirf must have remembered Madara and summoned him. Once he got out of here, he would no doubt be back in that damn laboratory of the Black Wizard. Madara didn't have time for the Black Wizard, he needed to rush back to the moment he awoke. Then light came, and before Madara was Zirf. They were in Zeref's laboratory. Judging by the lack of feelings behind Zeref's eyes, this was his emotionless persona. His neutral state. Good morning, my creation. Zirf smiled. You bastard. Madara grabbed onto Zeref's collar, balling his other fist ready to strike him. How long was I out for this time? How long? 10 years I believe. Zirf hummed, looking carefree of seeing Madara angry. Like it didn't matter, if Madara killed him it would just be what he wanted. 10 years? You kept me in that book for 10 fucking years. Madara was outraged. What happened? What happened to her? To who? Zirf tilted his head to the side, unaware of who Madara was talking about. Damn you. Madara punched Zirf, yet Zirf still smiled. Pleased at this development, Madara proceeded by throwing Zirf straight through a stone wall. I don't have time for this. Madara grabbed his book and was ready to leave, although not before giving Zirf a warning. Don't you dare summon me back. I will return when it pleases me. Madara declared and leapt out the window. His eternal Mangekyu blazing, and a blue fiery aura exploding around him creating the perfect Susanoo. It was at least twice the size of Acnologia's dragon form. And at full speed, Madara vanished in a sonic boom. It didn't take long for Madara to arrive in the northern parts of Ishgar, and once he saw his destination in view. The Susanoo vanished and Madara gracefully landed before a lone cabin. His and Ur's cabin. Madara instantly ran up and kicked down the door. Are you here? Madara looked around, and to his horror, the place looked like it had been abandoned for quite some time now. The furniture all covered up in white blankets, and his Sharingan not picking up anyone in the nearby area. Madara steadily walked inside the cabin, ghostly images of standing in the kitchen to greet him. Sitting in the chair next to him by the fireplace, snoring and sound asleep while Madara read a book. The bedroom, where he saw images of having fallen asleep waiting for him to come home from his job. Madara was shaking, his hands balling into fists. His heart feeling emotions it hadn't felt for a long time. Even more so, when he found something else. A photograph. Standing next to two young boys underneath each of her arms. One silver-haired boy, and one scowling black-haired boy. Who are these two? The boys looked to be around the ages of 8 to 10 in the photo. Madara thought back, remembering the last time he saw her. He was taking her to the doctor, because she was experiencing morning sickness for the past few days. These boys, they couldn't be. The silver-haired one looked nothing like him and but the black-haired one, the only resemblance they shared was that scowl, the hair color and the eyes. But he didn't look anything like Madara or either. Although, perhaps there was a possibility. She looks happy. Madara gently brushed his hand over in the photo, seeing her radiating smile. Madara stored the photo inside his bag. Not having time to search the cabin, Madara headed into town to ask the locals. Madara rushes into town, finding the market and the stand with the woman that was a friend of hers. Wait, aren't you? The woman looked in surprise seeing Madara rush up to her. She then scowled at him, with a scornful look. How dare you? How dare you come back after abandoning her? I don't wanna hear it. You left her 10 years ago to raise her child by herself. And now the woman started crying, although Madara picked up on the word child. His mind instantly going to the black-haired boy in the photo. I didn't abandon her, I was kidnapped, Madara stated, his eyes looking sincere. You were? By who? Never mind that now. Where is her? What happened to her? Madara violently grabbed onto the woman's wrist. Ouch. You are hurting me, the woman yelped in pain. Where is her? Madara didn't let go. She's gone, the woman whimpered. Gone. Madara knew all too well what it meant, but he didn't want to believe it. What do you mean gone? She's dead. She died fighting against a demon of the books of Zirf. She died fighting Deliora, the woman revealed, to which Madara let go of her wrist. The scenery changed, to the ruins of a small town a few miles away from Ur's hometown. In the center of this town, was a gigantic frozen ice block, containing the demon known as Deliora. Madara had gotten the location from Ur's friend, and learned of what she did using iced shell to trap the demon. Madara stands before the ice block, his eyes looking empty. Hesitantly Madara brings his hand up to the ice. This ice was all that was left of Ur. Once that sunk in, a single drop of tear dripped down from Madara's cheek. Yet his face looked stoic as usual. Madara hadn't cried since his brother Izuna died. This tear was probably the last one he would ever shed. You are the first person since my brother that I ever truly loved. I hope you knew that. With that said, Madara walked away, his heart feeling empty. As he walked, he thought back on Hashirama and their final conversation. I tried your way, Hashirama, and I still failed. Once again, I lost what I loved the most. And in return, I have no weaknesses again. Was my one and only true weakness, and now she is gone. From now, I will be doing things my way. Madara looked up to the sky, as he was talking to Hashirama, who was probably watching from beyond the grave. This world shall know, they shall learn, and they shall fear the name Madara. With Hashirama's ways having failed him, Madara once again returns to his own ways of creating peace. He would create that peace all by his own power. He would make this world, a world he has come to know as home, peaceful. But before any of that, Madara pulled out his demon book. Madara needed to make some adjustments of his own. In a few days, Madara returned to Zirf. Ah, you are back, did you find what you seek? I did, Madara hissed underneath his breath. I know what I must do now. Oh, are you finally going to kill me? Zirf asked. No, Madara growled at Zirf. No, do not misunderstand, the reason I decided not to kill you is not for my lack of hatred. In fact, I have never hated anyone more than I do you. The reason I won't kill you, is because this pitiful, lonely, immortal existence of yours is the punishment you deserve. So, I'm going to let you live. To continue living this life of misery and loneliness. While I shall strive for my goal, peace. Madara declared, and Zirf huffed with a smirk spread across his face. And how do you plan to do that? I will just stop every attempt and seal you back in your book until you kill me. Then go right ahead, I shall wait for someone to come around and kill you. Or I kill you once the key to my ultimate goal is within reach. Madara declared, the tension rising in the room along with their power. Oh, I see, just one problem. If I die, you die, remember? Zirf smiled, feeling a sense of victory. Not anymore. Madara tossed his book back to Zirf, who looked puzzled, as he opened the book and browsed through it. Then it became painfully obvious. You severed our life connections. Zirf looked in disbelief, and feeling a sense of amazement. It was quite easy once I studied upon the languages of this world. I had a lot of time to read when I lived with Gave me a chance to learn about you and your demons. Then, I studied upon this book for these past few days. And discovered the way to sever our connection. Madara revealed, and Zirf merely clapped. Bravo, you exceeded my expectations, magnificent. But, how do you plan to achieve this peace? Even without me in this world, war and conflict will not cease to exist. My presence and existence have rooted itself into this world and created a darkness. I will admit I am still trying to figure that out for myself, but I'm sure I can find something, in your mind. Madara flashed his Sharingan, Zirf beginning to roll over in pain. His mind being searched through by Madara. Zirf however surprised Madara. Zirf was able to push him back from peering too much into his mind. Madara saw images of people that didn't really concern him, but then things grew interesting. He saw Zirf creating a kingdom for himself, an empire. The Alvarez Empire, the Lumen Histoire, Alvarez's failed attack on Ishgar. And finally, Zirf managed to push Madara out from his mind. Zirf's eyes glowing red like a Sharingan. Don't ever do that again. Zirf hissed at him. The Lumen Histoire, an infinite source of magic power. Hey, I see, you plan to use it to travel to a precise moment in time. Well then, that's very interesting. Madara smirked at seeing Zirf angry, although now that Zirf had his guard up, Madara couldn't attempt to search through Zirf's mind for more details. Not that he needed to anyway, he could figure out the rest himself. But tell me, why not use this Eclipse Gate of yours? Because, I can't. The Eclipse Gate requires the 12 golden zodiac keys to use. And, to travel to precise moment in time, the gate needs to exist and be open in that time period as well. Otherwise one just randomly jumps through time, and for a limited use only. And where I want to go, is in a time period where it didn't exist yet. However, with the Lumen Histoire, and its infinite magic, there is no limit to what I can accomplish. Zirf declared, darkness flaring around him with his dark and evil persona showing. I see, very well. Then let's see, just who obtains the Lumen Histoire first. You, or me? Madara morphed his eyes into his Rinnegan, as he and Zirf stared each other down. If you shall clash against me and my Spriggan 12, the world might end as a result of our war. Zirf smirked, seeming thrilled at the challenge Madara offered. I do not care, for I shall leave this cruel reality behind and travel into a new. Madara declared, the flare of both their auras destroying the entire laboratory. The entire valley surrounding them was trembling before their might. It was a competition, a race over who would get Lumen Histoire or rather Fairy Heart. Present day. Madara stared into the vast horizon of the sea, reminiscing about his past, his goal, and his beloved. Feeling the gentle breeze of the sea tickling against his face, his majestic long black hair blowing in the wind. On the other side of these waters, was the continent of Ishgar. Madara's gentle tired black eyes, turned bright red. With his Sharingan, even from a different continent, he could see a vast amount of magic power from Ishgar. All coming from one object, or from one person. Fairy Heart. Now then, Madara's lips rose up into a smirk. Let the war begin. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.